Soundbites Academy. You have reached day 7 of our 30 days English Level Up Challenge. What's your opinion on the concept of free will?
What's your opinion on the concept of free will?
I believe in determinism, so I think free will is an illusion.
I believe in determinism, so I think free will is an illusion.
How do you feel about the intersection of technology and privacy?
How do you feel about the intersection of technology and privacy?
It's a complex issue that requires careful consideration and regulation.
It's a complex issue that requires careful consideration and regulation.
How do you think we can combat income inequality?
How do you think we can combat income inequality?
I think we need to address systemic issues through policies like progressive taxation and a living wage.
I think we need to address systemic issues through policies like progressive taxation and a living wage.
What's your perspective on the role of government in society?
What's your perspective on the role of government in society?
I believe in a social democratic model where government plays a strong role in ensuring equality and opportunity for all.
I believe in a social democratic model where government plays a strong role in ensuring equality and opportunity for all.
How do you feel about the ethics of artificial intelligence?
How do you feel about the ethics of artificial intelligence?
It's a fascinating and rapidly developing field, but there are definitely ethical concerns to consider.
It's a fascinating and rapidly developing field, but there are definitely ethical concerns to consider.
What's your favorite piece of classical music?
What's your favorite piece of classical music?
I love Beethoven's Ninth Symphony.
I love Beethoven's Ninth Symphony.
How do you think we can promote sustainable living practices?
How do you think we can promote sustainable living practices?
It starts with education and awareness, but it also requires systemic changes and collective action.
It starts with education and awareness, but it also requires systemic changes and collective action.
What's the most interesting TED Talk you've ever watched?
What's the most interesting TED Talk you've ever watched?
I really enjoyed Brené Brown's talk on vulnerability.
I really enjoyed Brené Brown's talk on vulnerability.
How do you feel about the current state of the criminal justice system?
How do you feel about the current state of the criminal justice system?
It's a deeply flawed system that requires significant reform.
It's a deeply flawed system that requires significant reform.
What's your opinion on the future of renewable energy?
What's your opinion on the future of renewable energy?
I'm optimistic that we can transition to a more sustainable energy system with the right policies and investments.
I'm optimistic that we can transition to a more sustainable energy system with the right policies and investments.
What's your favorite work of art?
What's your favorite work of art?
I love Vincent van Gogh's Starry Night.
I love Vincent van Gogh's Starry Night.
How do you feel about the role of social media in modern society?
How do you feel about the role of social media in modern society?
It has its benefits, but there are also significant negative impacts on mental health and social cohesion.
It has its benefits, but there are also significant negative impacts on mental health and social cohesion.
What's the most inspiring documentary you've ever watched?
What's the most inspiring documentary you've ever watched?
I was deeply moved by 13th, which explores the history and impact of mass incarceration in the United States.
I was deeply moved by 13th, which explores the history and impact of mass incarceration in the United States.
How do you think we can improve access to health care for all?
How do you think we can improve access to health care for all?
It requires a combination of policies like universal health care and investments in public health infrastructure.
It requires a combination of policies like universal health care and investments in public health infrastructure.
What's your perspective on the concept of mindfulness?
What's your perspective on the concept of mindfulness?
I think it's a valuable practice for cultivating self-awareness and inner peace.
I think it's a valuable practice for cultivating self-awareness and inner peace.
How do you feel about the state of public education?
How do you feel about the state of public education?
It's a complex issue, but I believe we need to invest more in public education and address systemic inequities.
It's a complex issue, but I believe we need to invest more in public education and address systemic inequities.
What's the most important lesson you've learned in life?
What's the most important lesson you've learned in life?
That vulnerability is a strength, not a weakness.
That vulnerability is a strength, not a weakness.
How do you think we can promote greater social cohesion in our communities?
How do you think we can promote greater social cohesion in our communities?
It requires efforts to bridge divides and build connections across different groups.
It requires efforts to bridge divides and build connections across different groups.
What's your opinion on the role of art in society?
What's your opinion on the role of art in society?
I believe art has the power to inspire, challenge, and transform individuals and communities.
I believe art has the power to inspire, challenge, and transform individuals and communities.
How do you feel about the state of mental health care in our society?
How do you feel about the state of mental health care in our society?
It's deeply inadequate and requires significant reform and investment.
It's deeply inadequate and requires significant reform and investment.
What's the most interesting research article you've ever read?
What's the most interesting research article you've ever read?
I found a study on the effects of meditation on the brain to be particularly fascinating.
I found a study on the effects of meditation on the brain to be particularly fascinating.
What's your perspective on the role of art and education?
What's your perspective on the role of art in education?
I believe art education is essential for fostering creativity, critical thinking, and empathy.
I believe art education is essential for fostering creativity, critical thinking, and empathy.
How do you feel about the use of technology in the workplace?
How do you feel about the use of technology in the workplace?
It has its benefits, but it also poses challenges for privacy, work-life balance, and job security.
It has its benefits, but it also poses challenges for privacy, work-life balance, and job security.
What's the most impactful volunteer experience you've had?
What's the most impactful volunteer experience you've had?
I once volunteered at a homeless shelter and found it to be a humbling and eye-opening experience.
I once volunteered at a homeless shelter and found it to be a humbling and eye-opening experience.
How do you feel about the state of environmental regulations in our society?
How do you feel about the state of environmental regulations in our society?
It's deeply inadequate and requires significant strengthening to protect our planet and future generations.
It's deeply inadequate and requires significant strengthening to protect our planet and future generations.
What's the most innovative business idea you've heard of?
What's the most innovative business idea you've heard of?
I was impressed by a startup that uses machine learning to optimize food waste reduction in restaurants.
I was impressed by a startup that uses machine learning to optimize food waste reduction in restaurants.
How do you think we can address the issue of political polarization?
How do you think we can address the issue of political polarization?
It requires efforts to bridge divides and build connections across different political ideologies and beliefs.
It requires efforts to bridge divides and build connections across different political ideologies and beliefs.
What's your perspective on the role of empathy in interpersonal relationships?
What's your perspective on the role of empathy in interpersonal relationships?
I believe empathy is essential for building trust, understanding, and compassion in relationships.
I believe empathy is essential for building trust, understanding, and compassion in relationships.
How do you feel about the use of surveillance technology in public spaces?
How do you feel about the use of surveillance technology in public spaces?
It raises concerns about privacy, civil liberties, and potential abuse of power.
It raises concerns about privacy, civil liberties, and potential abuse of power.
What's the most inspiring speech you've ever heard?
What's the most inspiring speech you've ever heard?
I was moved by Barack Obama's speech on race and unity during his presidential campaign.
I was moved by Barack Obama's speech on race and unity during his presidential campaign.
What's your opinion on the role of humor in our society?
What's your opinion on the role of humor in our society?
I believe humor can be a powerful tool for social critique, cultural commentary, and building connections.
I believe humor can be a powerful tool for social critique, cultural commentary, and building connections.
How do you feel about the state of global cooperation and diplomacy?
How do you feel about the state of global cooperation and diplomacy?
It's facing significant challenges, but I remain hopeful that we can find ways to collaborate and address global issues like climate change and conflict.
It's facing significant challenges, but I remain hopeful that we can find ways to collaborate and address global issues like climate change and conflict.
What's the most interesting scientific discovery you've read about recently?
What's the most interesting scientific discovery you've read about recently?
I was fascinated by the discovery of a new type of particle that could potentially revolutionize our understanding of physics.
I was fascinated by the discovery of a new type of particle that could potentially revolutionize our understanding of physics.
Hope you enjoyed today's video. Leave a comment below if you found any content challenging and share your thoughts with other learners. Subscribe, like, and share this video to support us and stay up to date on new courses. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon.